I'll record this too so that we have this for later if anybody has issues. But remember, this presentation is also in D2L so that if I'm lagging rows, you can kind of follow along with the presentation. But if you could go to this, I'm going to put this also in the chat. If you could go to this site. Okay, so Isaiah, it's lagging for you too. Okay, I'm going to turn my camera off. I don't know, maybe that might help. I know sometimes it does. So if you could fill out that form, it should take about 5 minutes, and we'll come back in 5 minutes. We'll talk a little bit about that form later as well. All right. Thank you for taking a minute to think about who you are as a student and who you want to be as a teacher and the traits that you are bringing into the classroom. It's really important for us to start identifying our own educator identity as we start talking about what education means for us. We're going to move on to right now our community agreements. So I've drafted some things and I want you to identify if there are any changes or additions that you'd like to make. So the university has a new policy with regard to Zoom. The expectation is that you're on camera at least twice during class. So um, we've already fulfilled one time because you guys introduced yourselves on camera. So that is awesome. One of those times will be during breakout groups. So being on camera during breakout groups is important. It builds that community. It also allows people to engage in a different way. Also on Zoom, if you could just be sure to use mute and the chat appropriately. Respect is also something that's really important in this space. So the ability to listen, to follow the agreed upon norms, and to be kind to one another. We have enough going on in the world that's not kind. So it is always great to come into a space where we know we can expect kindness and caring from one another. Also, the agreement is, as I would like it to be, would be just that we engage and participate, that we do the work, especially during group work. I'm sure you have been the recipient of having to pull more than your fair share, and it doesn't feel good, nor does it help anyone with the learning process. I'm also I'm as an educator of 16 years, one of the reasons that I wanted to instruct other teachers is because I want students to get the best. And so part of this may not seem like, how is this going to apply in the classroom? Well, it does. It does. There's some foundational things that you will get in this class that will carry over to your teacher self. And by not engaging in the work, um, I might not be putting the best teachers in front of students. So that is my goal for each and every class. And so participation is part of that. Participation is a way to help everyone learn. It gives us the ability to um, hear other people ask questions and engage and hear their thought process. So I appreciate that. I appreciate how you all just engaged in the chat because then you get thinking. Your other people's thoughts inspire our thoughts, and then staying tuned in. It is so easy for us to be at home and to let this whole class run while we take a brief nap or while we do something else. And again, that does not denote putting the best teachers in front of students. Also, the late policy as it stands is to communicate to me prior to the due date or receive a 0 for the assignment. Those are the rules. Are there any changes or additions that you would like to see added to these community agreements? Thank you, Insha. That helps me to see that. All right. Well, I feel like I should do going once, going twice. These community agreements are sold to EDU 210. Perfect. All right. Thank you all for those established norms. And I'm just going to make sure that we have those each week. And I'll remind you of them. So part of an agreement is that we hold each other accountable too. So know that I'm going to hold you accountable to these norms that we have all just agreed upon. Oops. No, I wasn't supposed to do that. It's supposed to come up separately. All right. So picture, I'm a big visual learner. So it's always easier for me to see something and analyze it than to have to read it or analyze it when it comes to words. So If you could, when you look at this image, what do you think of? If you could just write that in the chat. When you see this image, what immediately comes to your mind? If you were to read this image and say, I think this means, what do you think this means? Knowledge. Yeah, lots of it too. Right, Rose? All those papers in someone's head. Thinking, anxiety. Yeah, because I look at that list and there's no room, right? So there's no room for anything else, but it's overwhelming, like Gabriella said, the idea of learning. I see it too as like a double consciousness. So I'm like in my own thoughts too much. So I see it as like, okay, there's this larger head, and then I'm in my own head. And I have a tendency to sometimes do that. So thoughts, learning, stress. Yes, there's little room. It's almost like the person that's there is being pushed out and he's looking up. Chaotic. Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing those words. Let me um, talk a little bit about the philosophy and how it relates to this picture. So, philosophy is a Latin word, and when you translate that Latin word, it means love of wisdom. So, educational philosophy is the love of wisdom of education. Hmm, okay. So in this class, we are going to delve into the wisdom of education. And we're going to be looking at that historically and presently. It is an activity people are undertake. So philosophy is an activity. So if we think about a philosophy as a verb, it's something people do when they seek to understand central truths about themselves. And remember, we talked about that before, that in order to be a good educator, you must first look at yourself. So you're going to be doing some soul searching, some wisdom in terms of self, also in terms of the world in which we live. So education doesn't happen in a bubble. We have to look at the landscape. So thinking even in terms of now, how students are engaging differently in online instruction and what that means. What is the wisdom of that? What can we learn about education through examining that? And your relationship with the world and each other. So the wisdom of learning from each other and the relationships that we have. So philosophy is the love of wisdom. It's looking at the truth of ourselves, the truth of the world, and the truth of how we engage with one another. It's also about always asking questions, but also answering those questions. I remember when I was younger, I just thought philosophy was, when I was in college, we studied this guy, Rene Descartes. And Rene Descartes said, who am I? His eternal, the only question that he sought to answer in his entire life was, who am I? And, do I exist? It's, do I exist? And he finally answered that question at the end of his life. And his answer was simply, I think, therefore I am. So because I can think, I exist, which is kind of crazy. So philosophy is not just asking the question, but it's seeking the answer to that question too, and arguing that answer. So much of Descartes' life, he was writing books in argument of other philosophers who had also attempted to answer that question. What does that mean for education? Because we are not spending a whole term, y'all, arguing about whether we exist or not. We're going to be answering those questions and questions related to things that are happening in life. So, do all children get an equitable education? That's the question we need to be asking ourselves. In this online space, are we truly teaching? Are we really learning? And answering those questions and arguing about it. I love a good argument. Ask my husband. All right, so that is philosophy. And so thinking about that now, connected to the image, we had one identification of the image when we first saw it without the words. Now we have a kind of a context for it. Does anyone want to unmute themselves and say how the image now connects to the words on the screen?
I think it kind of ties back to like always expanding your learning, and if you find an answer to something, you just want to keep going and going.
So those papers could be the answers that he's finding.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So I see a lot of like self-reflection, and maybe that's um the portion where he's trying to understand himself and the world and stuff.
Great, Liz, I definitely see that. Being inside your own head. Anyone else? One more person, please.
I think the papers are just his memory, all the life he's seen, just going through life, doing what he can.
Oh, it's so deep. So how do you think memory functions in like wisdom?
Wait, what?
I say you're always so deep. I said, how do you think memory, what's the relationship between memory and wisdom? So sometimes we think of knowledge as like learning, and you just kind of exploded and said memory. So how is memory wisdom?
Well, I remember times where I would watch my grandmother cook, so I learned to cook from those memories. I remember seeing, I guess some people get robbed. So for me, the life lesson was, all right, always watch around, watch people's hands, watch people's pockets, just memories.
Perfect, perfect. So I'm so glad you said that, Joshua, because a lot in education specifically, a lot of times we only see knowledge as one thing, as some learning that takes place in a book, and we discount the experiences that students have that are just as valuable as any book can teach you. So I love your example of your grandmother cooking, right? Because you could get a cookbook for Christmas and try to cook, and you wouldn't, and I'm willing to bet that those recipes wouldn't be as good as what you make from memory with from what you saw your grandmother do. And so that's experiential learning that also has a place and is really important in our educational landscape. So thank you all for sharing those. Those were awesome additions and connections to the image. At the end of this module, this is what we're going to be able to do. We're going to be able to define worldview as it connects to philosophy. You're going to be able to discuss how you come to understand your own worldview. You're going to be able to define philosophy and how it connects to you as a person. We might not be able to do this by the time we get out of this class today, but after you finish the module activities, that's what you should be able to do. All right, here's where we're coming to the hypothesis thing. And I think I'm going to move our break up here right now. Yeah, right before this. So we are going to right now, I'm going to drop a link in the chat for our hypothesis kind of group annotation. So what hypothesis does is it gives us the ability to all be looking at a particular text and adding our thoughts to it in real time. So it's almost like a collaborative annotation space. It's not kind of, it is. And so we'll be taking time to do that. I'm gonna give us a 5-minute break. I'm gonna drop the link to the hypothesis in the chat. You can, I'm dropping it in the chat so that you make sure that it is up and ready to go when we come back in 5 minutes, so that we're all kind of ready to go. All right, everybody good? Can I get like some little emojis or something so I know everybody's good? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to be doing that as a group, but we'll do it after break when we come back. So I'll explain it a little bit more. I just want to make sure that you all have that with you. So 5-minute break starts now. All right. Cindy, welcome. How's it going?
Oh, I didn't realize my mic was on. I'm sorry. Um, I'm sorry I was late. I woke up late.
Cindy?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you wanted to see me bright and early, so I don't know how you were late.
I mean, I just woke up. I know you're teaching this class, so I was like, I'm excited again.
Okay, well, I'm so excited to have you. I'm gonna shoot you an email, so let's set up some time so we can talk.
All right, I got you.
All right, let me share. All right, so we are at this, where we're gonna kind of read an article collectively. Well, and I say collectively, it's not like we're gonna do the whole thing that you hated in school where the popcorn reads and we'll read it like that. But you should have a link to a page that looks like this. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to annotate right on this page. So I'll kind of give you an example, and I have one in here already. So I've added an annotation as I read about textbooks, the chalkboard, and the apple. And what I said was they're no longer the basics of school. Now we think of computers when we think of schools. Let me show you how the annotation works. Let me just demo it really quick for you. So if I'm annotating this, what's the purpose of school in the 21st century? Then I would click on the little box under the I, and I might say 21st century skills are really important. And then I would just post to EDU 210. And if you can't see this, there's a little arrow here that that might help. Oops, nope, it's a little arrow that you can kind of see the annotations that are there already. Show all, and page notes, I think 2 shows them all. So that's how we annotate for this text. And I think I had that I wanted you to do, oops, wrong one. Next. I think I asked you to do, what the heck did I do with it? I think I asked you to do, what the heck, where did it go? Okay. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I lost my PowerPoint. I think I asked you to do 4 annotations, but let's just do 2 so that we can keep rolling in the class. So if you could just read, creating 2 annotations based on the text, that would be awesome. I'm gonna give us 15 minutes to read and create those 2 annotations. When we come back, we'll talk about what this article is about. There's some interesting things about what the purpose of education is right now that I want us to be able to talk about. All right, so anybody have any questions about the tool that I'm asking you to do? Anybody having issues getting in there?
I don't really have a question or whatever. So you just want us to read and pick out 2 main ones, or just 2 that stand out to us for the annotation? Wait, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry. 2 that stand out to you.
2 that stand out. Okay, thank you.
And then if you're having issues with your internet, just drop them in the, if hypothesis isn't working, just drop your annotations in the chat. Okay, so I'm gonna turn off my screen. I'm gonna be reading along with you guys. You'll see my annotations pop up. We should see each other's annotations pop up which should help our reading overall. And I'll also be checking the chat. So if you have issues, I'll be looking for that. How are you all doing? Do you need about another minute? Is everybody finishing up?
I need a minute. I'm still working on it. Thank you.
You're welcome. How about I give like 3 more minutes and then we will come back, we'll jump into breakout groups. I know some of you might still be working, and that's okay. So I'm going to put us in the breakout rooms to talk about the article and the things that stood out to you and the things that you annotated for thinking about school in this 21st century. And I was really fascinated by this graphic that kind of walks through what education was in the 30s and what it has evolved to be. And I still think there's room for evolution there. So I'm interested to hear your conversations about it. Does anybody have any questions before I send us off to breakout rooms?
Again, it's not a question. Sorry. I don't know. I mean, I picked my 2 main annotations, but I don't know if it's just like hit right on top of the head. Does it matter or we just discussing?
It doesn't matter. It's just
Okay.
into breakout rooms. So we'll have about 7 minutes in the breakout rooms, and they are opening up for you now. Daniela, do you need me to move you somewhere?
Hello.
Hi, y'all. If I could just ask if you have the ability to turn your cameras on so that we are having a conversation kind of face to face.
Okay.
Thanks.
Stop. Go sit down. Go.
Hey, what was your annotations?
Oh, give me 1 second. Okay, so the first one was this one. So it says, I propose the purpose of schools must be preparing children to compete in the global environment. So I decided to annotate this, and I said that it would be highly beneficial to the students and the educators as well if we as a nation took into consideration how education works around the world. So basically going back to what our professor had said earlier, that we tend to think about how we do things here in North America and just like in our kind of little country, and don't think about how education is portrayed or viewed in other countries, which I think could be really beneficial to like learn from them. So that was my first annotation.
You're good. So one I decided to annotate, well, I'm still annotating it, but still, was where it says, yet US education efforts are moving in the opposite directions. It says teachers have become scapegoats for many systemic ills facing our education system. Instead of broadening, the curriculum seems to be becoming more and more limited every year of shrinking budgets. I said I feel that the budgets are always getting cut, especially in the US, because the higher ups don't see as much of importance in school as they do in, let's say, the police or the firefighters. Like, you never hear any cuts in those areas, but it's always the schools are getting this taken away, or certain schools can't afford this new technology to help the students succeed. So it's always like, I feel like that just stands out, and many people could probably add more onto that.
Yes,
And
I totally agree with you, Isaiah, because like, yeah, I just agree with you. You just said
Daniela, are you there?
See, the other one I had chose, I think Insha had already said it. It was a whole child approach is the belief that each student in each classroom should be healthy, safe, and engaged to support and challenged. So I agreed with that one. That was the other one that I chose, but I know Insha already talked about it.
I also think it's teachers' responsibility to have safe classroom or engage, because it's based on what the teacher lessons plans make and how the student react to that.
Do you guys want to say your other one? The other annotation you guys chose?
I was still in the middle of looking for my other one that I was gonna do. your last annotation, I actually like annotated kind of the same. Like I just did like the first sentence, and like I just said that I agreed because like I feel like for a student to be educated, I feel like the educator needs to like have knowledge before like passing it down. So that's what I said about that. But I do agree with you on what you have said before.
That's good. That's good that we agree on something. Um, but who else hasn't spoken yet?
Um, I kind of agree with what both of you guys said because, like you said, education has changed throughout time, and
Hey, we're finished. Sorry.
Okay, it's so the two Gabbies got in the room together. That's so weird.
Yeah.
We're 1 minute warning, so we're coming back. Thanks, y'all.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, my timer went off, so it was perfect timing, and I got a chance to sneak into some rooms to hear what y'all were talking about, and I heard some good stuff. So Isaiah, you were saying something, and I was like snapping my fingers to it when I came into the room. Can you talk about what you shared in your group?
Which one did you hear? The first one about. Hmm?
I heard when you were talking about the money.
Okay. So, the one I decided to annotate was where it was talking about the shrinking budgets. I said I feel that teachers in schools always have budget cuts, and you always hear about how schools can't afford this, and how schools can't buy the updated technology, but you never hear about cuts on the police departments or anything in the higher ups, because it always seems like people don't want to support education. They only want to support what brings them either more money or more gratitude in their case. But I just said it always seems like schools are the ones that get affected by this more than anybody else, and it's just not right.
We're like the building blocks for society, and yet we have the least. That's like shocking to me. Thanks, Isaiah, for that addition. Liz, you were spitting some knowledge too. What was one of your annotations? Liz, you don't want to share? Too shy? Not now. I'll come back. Leslie R., I heard you talking too about one of your annotations. Can you share one of your annotations with us?
The annotation I had shared was when it was like, I proposed that the purpose of school must be preparing children to. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. It's I believe the first step towards educating the whole child is to support the whole educator, and I agreed to that because I feel like before educating a student, the educator themselves should be like educated and they have some knowledge that they could pass down.
Awesome. Thank you. Andrea, I'm really interested. You annotated that you feel like there are other societies that might be outperforming us, and you had a question. Can you talk to us about that?
Which one was it? They're positioning their societies for success by emphasizing. Okay. I was a little more confused on that one. That's why I left a question. But there was another one that really stood out to me, and it was the one about instead of broadening, the curriculum seems to become more and more limited each year because of shrinking budgets and single-minded emphasis on math and reading. And I felt like having the budgets doesn't really let for teachers to set through and follow through with their curriculums, and they feel a little more limited, and students wouldn't really get to open up their minds on other different subjects, such as like, let's say the class that we're taking now. I feel like having a budget cut doesn't really help in education, and it shows that the US is really focused more on the money than the education that we have.
Great points, great points. I also think it's really important for us to think about your question too is a good one, because what are other countries doing right? What are other countries doing that we're not doing? And this sentence that these emerging nations are broadening their curricula, creating communication, imaginative, tech-savvy, multilingual students. And I don't know about what y'all think. Like, what do you think? Do you think the United States is doing that? Does anybody see the United States as broadening their curriculum, creating communicative, imaginative, tech-savvy, multilingual students? Do you all see the United States doing that?
Like creating something for the English learner student?
Or even, or not even creating something for English learner students, but encouraging students to be multilingual and encouraging students to take other languages in class.
Yeah, I think yeah, because in high school we have to take different languages like French, Spanish, Arabic. So I think they were like telling us like to learn. I think it's important to learn different kind of language. It will help us. Yeah.
I think so too. I think that to some extent the United States does that, but I also see
Yeah.
I see a disconnect because I grew up on the southeast side of Chicago. So a lot of the people that I went to school with spoke multiple languages, spoke Spanish. And my teachers would always get so mad at the students for speaking Spanish in class. And it wasn't respected as, wow, you're multilingual, you are communicating in two languages, and that's an asset. For my teachers, they saw it as a deficit. I don't know. Has anybody else had that experience?
Yeah, I had in high school. I was speaking Spanish to one of my friends, and then my teacher's like, "Oh no, stop speaking that, just speak in English so I could understand what you guys are talking about."
Yeah, I think we're one of the only um, powerful nations, I'll say first world nations in the world that don't encourage, and not just encourage through school, but encourage through society that we are multilingual. All right. Well, thank you for examining this particular piece. I think it is important for us foundationally as we go on to constantly be reminding ourselves of what the purpose of a 21st century education is. And it is, according to this article, for us to be global minded, for us to take a whole child approach, which means to look at, I highlighted it, is a belief that every student in each class should be healthy, safe, engaged, supported, and challenged. And I think that that's really important for us to get and understand. That's a philosophy that is newer than some of the older philosophies. All right, y'all, let's take some time and watch a quick video. And this is in your module. And it's connected to it's connected to a discussion post. So I really want you to pay attention as you listen to this, because we're going to end up doing that discussion post together in class based on us watching it together now. So the focus question as you're watching the video is, what ways can philosophy be used in our lives? And I want you to maybe take a piece of paper or on the computer, jot down a word that stands out to you, a phrase that stands out to you, and a sentence that stands out to you from this specific video. So as you're watching, how can we apply philosophy to our own lives? How can it be useful for us? as he's talking, a word that sticks out to you, a phrase that sticks out to you, and then a sentence that he says that sticks out to you, because we're gonna use that in our next learning activity. It's about a 15-minute video.
Ladies and gentlemen, whether we realize it or not, every single one of us has a philosophy. And that philosophy is an irreducible force that drives our thinking and actions, that dictate our outcomes and our sense of life. And if we just spent a little bit of time considering and learning about our philosophy, I contend that we can change our lives. And if we took that to its furthest conclusion, we could change the world. Now, the word philosophy is an interesting word. It conjures up interesting thoughts or images from people. When you hear the word philosophy, what comes up in your mind? Are you thinking about old guys in robes wandering the earth in antiquity, pondering the greatest questions like, what is the meaning of life? What is the true nature of human consciousness? Why is there something rather than nothing? Or maybe you start to think about groups of friends that get together on a Sunday afternoon over some cappuccino, wearing the jackets that have like the suede arms on the sleeves. And whatever they're talking about on that Sunday has no relevance to life on Monday. I'd like to make a distinction. There is academic philosophy. There is the theoretical philosophy. But there's also a practical application of philosophy. I don't consider myself an academic philosopher, but I work hard to be a practical philosopher. As a matter of fact, I contend that philosophy is the most practical thing a human being can hope to embrace. I'm talking about putting dollars in your pocket, practical. I'm talking about creating a better relationship, practical. I'm talking about being a better parent, practical. Why? Why would that be? How can philosophy be so practical, and yet most people don't bother to consider it very often? I think the best answer was cited by Rand when she said that contradictions lead to destruction, and the amount of destruction is relative to the level of the contradiction. And it's through our philosophical explorations that we can identify contradictions in our own life, in our own thinking, and resolve them, and transcend current challenges and go to the next level. Think about this. Children, when they're born, and I believe the arc of human experience, it starts out that I think all children have this sort of sixth sense, this sense of wonder. They ask a lot of why questions, don't they? Why does the sun rise in the east? Why do the stars sparkle in the sky? Why do the leaves change color? What's implied in that? What's implied is that to them, the universe is a comprehensible place, and that if we can learn about it, we can then become masters of our own destiny, and we can have this extraordinary and exciting future in front of us. But what happens? Well, Mom decides one day to tell little Timmy that there's a lesson he needs to learn about life and about reality. And that lesson is this: Timmy, you should never lie. You should always tell the truth. And good people who do good things in the world and have great lives are people who tell the truth. They don't lie. So Timmy's all excited. He's got another one in the arsenal now. He's building it up for this great life that's in front of him, very appreciative of the lesson he just learned. Moments later, the phone rings. It's Uncle Johnny. Uncle Johnny would like to talk to his mother. So Timmy answers the phone. He yells to Mom, "Mom, it's Uncle Johnny on the phone for you. Tell him I'm not here." Contradiction by contradiction by contradiction starts to eat away. And the sense of wonder over time becomes a sense of dread. That the universe suddenly becomes an incomprehensible place, that there's no use in trying, and that your only hope is maybe to try to survive it. We learn things like don't bite off more than you can chew. Don't try to be something you're not. Rich people are thieves. Life isn't fair. This translates into this whole issue of human motivation. What motivates people to act in their lives, to move forward in their lives, to go out there and try to make something better happen? And really, kind of in a rough way, you could say there's two kinds of people. There's the people who basically have checked out and all they're trying to do is survive it. They're not really going after everything. And then there's people who are committed seekers, people who are going after trying to make better things happen in their life. They have a desire to want to improve their life in any of the important categories, or maybe all of the important categories of their life. This is what I love about TED, ideas worth spreading. Coming in, people absorbing these ideas throughout the planet, that they can watch presentations, stimulate thinking and ideas. And by virtue of the fact that you're watching this presentation tells me that you're fall into that category of person. So let me ask you all a question. How many people here know something that they could be doing right now that they're currently not doing that would somehow make their life better? Raise your hand. Anybody who doesn't raise their hand, you're lying. Everybody knows something that they could be doing that they're currently not doing that would improve their life. So look at the absurdity of this. We already are basically in this category of life says that we're looking to try to improve things. And we already know things that we could be doing that we're not doing that would make things better, yet we're showing up at events and buying books and watching seminars and doing all these types of things to learn more about what we're not going to do. What prevents us from acting? So I've given a lot of thought to this over the years. And basically, here's what I've understood. Here's the conclusion that I've drawn that still unfolds as I think about it more. It all boils down to the driving forces in your life. What moves you? What drives you? And what would people say drives you? Well, your values. Okay, but where do your values come from? Your values come from your philosophy. Now, if your philosophy isn't mapped, if your mind is not mapped on this, if you don't have a philosophy formula, so to speak, to look through and try to say, where might I have some of these contradictions that are limiting my life, then you get to a point where you're stuck. Imagine that what's driving you in your career is pulling you in this direction. And that what is driving you in your personal life is pulling you in this direction. And little by little, you're getting pulled in these opposing directions. You're driving in two directions at once, basically, till you get to a point where you're at maximum tension. And at this point, you're stuck. If anything tries to move you more this way, you can't go because you've got tension equal to it on this side pulling you this way. You get to a point where you are stuck. There's nowhere else to go. And if you don't have a way to process that, then you have no way to solve that riddle, and you stay stuck. And it becomes a recurring or redundant pattern in life. But now imagine, with these contradictory driving forces, incidentally, you're only looking at two dimensions here. But what about your relationship life? What about your financial life? What about your spiritual life? It gets kind of complicated. Suddenly we're pulled in all these different ways, all around you, and you're kind of stuck in the middle of all of it. But imagine that you're able to formulate a way of aligning your values where instead of being like this at maximum tension where there's no more room for you to move, you start to go this way and align them in a common direction. And now you put energy into that system, which is what doing something new is, putting new energy into a system, and boom, it takes off. That's what's referred to as a breakthrough. People talk about, oh, there's a breakthrough. Yes, it could be a breakthrough in your business, a breakthrough in your relationship, a breakthrough in your personal life, but a breakthrough in your financial life, a spiritual breakthrough that you've had. Where does it come from? It comes from finding the foundational elements, your philosophical premises, and lining them up in a way that instead of competing with each other, they synergize with each other. And then the magic unfolds. When I look at philosophy and its branches, and let's look at the 5 branches of philosophy. I'll probably talk about the first 3 just for the purposes of this conversation, and talk about how they line up. you'll see that these are difficult questions to ask yourself. This isn't a difficult exploration. This isn't for the academic intellectual in the Ivy Towers of the greatest universities of the world. This is the practical use of a tool of achievement called philosophy. What I believe to be the most practical tool for human achievement. So the first branch of philosophy is metaphysics. Metaphysics is your view of the nature of reality. In essence, metaphysics asks the question, where am I? What is this place? Where am I? The second branch is epistemology, kind of a big word. Epistemology is the theory of knowledge. If metaphysics asks the question, where am I? Epistemology is going to ask the question, how do I know it? And emerging from your metaphysics, your view of reality, where am I, and your epistemology, your theory of knowledge, how I know it, becomes the third branch, which is ethics. Ethics provides a human being with a code of values and therefore will be a guide to your actions. In essence, ethics asks the question, so now what do I do? So just as maybe a fundamental example, supposing that you have a metaphysical view, a view of reality that says, I don't have the ability to X, fill in the blank. I don't have the ability to, and there's fill in the blank. I don't have the ability to have a good relationship. I don't have the ability to improve my standing in my career. I don't have the ability to just fill in whatever that blank is. Okay, so that's your view of reality. So what's the next branch? How do I know it? How do you know? Because I've tried and failed. So now what should I do? Third branch. Stop trying. Contrast that with a different view that says, I have an extraordinary ability to fill in the blank. I have an extraordinary ability to have a great love relationship. I have an extraordinary ability to grow in my career. I have an extraordinary ability to express health. Whatever it might be, just fill in the blank. How do you know it? Because I have at times failed in trying to do it, but I stayed with it until I was able to figure it out and succeed. So let's go to the third branch. Then what should I do? What I should do is stretch myself to do bigger and greater things. Your foundational philosophy, the premises that you hold, for most people which are unconscious, are the limiting factors in their life that they don't even know that they possess, which prevents them from doing more in their life and in the world. In the end, ladies and gentlemen, it's our philosophy that gives us our sense of life. And what emerges out of that third branch, the really important thing that emerges out of that third branch, what should you do, is a thing called purpose. Now, you've all seen, and maybe read the books and seen lectures on which I am in complete alignment with, being on purpose, being purpose-driven, how purpose needs to be the fuel that drives your life. But you have to ask the question, where does your purpose come from? You don't just get hit with the purpose stick one day and magically your purpose appears. Your purpose emerges from something. What makes you different than every other form of animal on the planet is the fact that you can choose a purpose. A dog cannot choose a purpose for its life. If it could, it probably wouldn't live with you. Right? A cow that chooses a purpose for its life, if they could choose a purpose for its life, there'd be no such thing as McDonald's. So animals live strictly by pain, pleasure, survival. And human beings who don't have a purpose do the same thing. There is no purpose except survival. And when your purpose is survival, survival is all you will ever get. So it is a triumphant thing to understand what purpose is and where it comes from and how to develop it, and it comes from your philosophy. In the end, ladies and gentlemen, philosophy gives us our sense of life. And if you and I share a common sense of life, then we can do great things together. If you and I do not share a common sense of life, then on the personal level, we get divorced. On the geopolitical level, we go to war and people die. I think it was maybe best stated when we look at this whole concept of sense of life and how philosophy plays a role, the role, in this incredible epic called human existence. But the philosopher Rand in her essay, Philosophy Who Needs It, said this, quote, "As a human being, you have no choice about the fact that you need a philosophy. Your only choice is whether you define your philosophy by a conscious, rational, disciplined process of thought and scrupulously logical deliberation, or let your subconscious accumulate a junk heap of unwarranted conclusions, false generalizations, undefined contradictions, undigested slogans, unidentified wishes, doubts, and fears, drawn together by chance, but integrated into your subconscious into a kind of mongrel philosophy, infused into a single solid weight, self-doubt, like a ball and chain in the place where your mind's wings should have grown." I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that there aren't lazy people in the world. I believe that people become paralyzed. And they aren't paralyzed because of inability or fear. They're paralyzed because they have contradictions in a philosophy that they don't even know that they own. Let's see if we can go out and change that. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Get it to share again. Sorry, you guys. I've watched this a couple of times, and every time I watch it, I have some new takeaways, but I just want to share some debrief with you really quickly because some of the stuff is going to appear on the quiz. So he talks about the 3 branches of philosophy, and he talks about the first being metaphysics, and that is just this idea. It was kind of like what I told you in the beginning about Rene Descartes questioning existence. So metaphysics is that idea of reality, existence. Who am I? What am I doing here? The next branch of philosophy is epistemology, and that is the knowledge center, and that examines how do I know it? So how do I exist and how do I know it? And then the third branch is ethics, and that's our moral compass, the thing that tells us right from wrong. And then that's what should I do? So we've had these 3 branches of metaphysics that examines reality and existence. We have epistemology, which examines our knowledge. And then we have ethics, which is the code of right and wrong and tells us what to do. And I love that he connected it to those particular sentences. So what you're going to do in the next 10 minutes is go to the bit.ly that's on your screen. And once you go there, you will add, yeah, I'm just going to ask us to do it individually and not in groups. So you can just pick somewhere on that page and add your word, your phrase, and your sentence that you took away from this particular viewing. So it's right. I'm going to put this in the chat for everyone so that you can have it right there. And there, if you run out of space on one page, if you go to the next page, there's a space. And how you do this, everyone, is you click on the one that says sticky note, and you just add. So my word was breakthrough. I spelled it right. And then I hit save, and it comes up for me as breakthrough. And I can just move it wherever I want to on the page after that. My phrase, and I'm going to make sure that I kind of stay with the colors that are here. My phrase was common sense of life. I'm going to just add that there under phrase. And then my sentence, which I'm going to add in blue, was we can become the masters of our own destiny. Okay, what I forgot to do was put my name on there. So if you could just make sure that your name is on there, because you will be getting a grade for this. This is part of your module activities. So we can have more than one person's thing on a page. And you should just be adding. And I'm gonna give us about 5 minutes because you should have this written out so that you can just add it to the page. Any questions about this? How to do it?
So
Yeah, I got a question. Oh, sorry. You hear me? Professor? Oh, okay. My question is, so for each one, I'm supposed to like make them connect? That's what you say by sentence?
So you don't
So
have
they,
to pick one word that you said that stood out to you, phrase that stood out to you. They don't all have to connect to each other.
oh, okay. I think I get it.
Somebody else have a question?
oh yeah, so we choose word from the video we watched, just TED Talk.
And if you need to, just go back to the video that it has subtitles so you can kind of view it and grab that. But just please don't forget to put your name on it too. And know that there are a bunch of pages. So if it becomes too crowded on one page, you can go to another. So I'm gonna give us up till 11 o'clock to do this before we move on to our next activity. Remember, please put your name on this so that I can attribute a score to you in D2L for this work. Don't forget, you all, there are other pages. You don't have to stay on page one. If you go up to the top of the screen, there's a little arrow that says 1 out of 8, and you can add to another screen that might not be as crowded. All right, y'all, we're gonna get back to it. I'm seeing some great sent words, phrases, and sentences. I'm really interested and I want to talk about some of them, but I know that'll hold up the class. But I just want to highlight a few. I love the one word that Eva put up, that idea of embrace. And I'm just fascinated that that's what you took out of it, because I think philosophy is something that should be embraced. And then Liz, you said, oh no, I'm sorry, Olivia, you said life isn't fair. And that stuck out to me too, because it's something that my mother always told me. And then it makes me think about like that whole kind of questions that he asked us to think about. So if life isn't fair, what should I do? How do I know that? And so it makes me kind of to go down that road. So that's a question. If life isn't fair, then how do I know that? Well, I know that because I've been treated unfairly sometimes. And then what should I do? What should I do with that is, I think, that really important step that I don't think we always take to make philosophy our own. And then Liz, you're like sentence drop, your purpose emerges from something you choose. That is so powerful. Your purpose emerges from something you choose. Because I think sometimes we think that purpose is just something that we're like tagged onto that's like moving us ahead. And really, purpose is choice for us. And I don't necessarily know if I've always thought that. And then Senshi, this idea of pondering too is really good. So, I mean, you guys are like, I'm really impressed with the words, the phrases, and the sentences that you came up with. Thank you for adding to the document. And I would just encourage you too to kind of look through what your classmates have said, like Liliana, that in irrestructible force is good, making your own purpose. Liliana said they're paralyzed because they have contradictions in a philosophy that they don't even know they own. Snaps, 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 like good stuff. So he says a lot of great stuff in that video, and that stuff are things that I want us to come back to and think about again as we talk about education. So what does an educational breakthrough look like? What does it mean to ponder things in education? What does it mean to make our own purpose in education? So things that we'll come back to again and again. Good stuff, y'all. Let's move to the next video that I'm going to show you. And then what we'll do is, so that you don't have a lot of homework, your girl is thinking about you, you'll add your responses to the discussion board question, which is just simply this: how did Sam Burns follow Patrick Gentempo's advice? So you will watch this, and then I'll give you about 10 minutes or so to go into D2L to answer that question. And boom, all of your discussion question work will be done for this class period. All right, let's get to watching this one.
Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Sam, and I just turned 17. A few years ago, before my freshman year in high school, I wanted to play snare drum in the Foxborough High School marching band. However, and it was a dream that I just had to accomplish, but each snare drum and harness weighed about 40 pounds each. And I have a disease called progeria, so just to give you an idea, I weigh about only 50 pounds. So logistically, I really couldn't carry a regular sized snare drum. And because of this, the band director assigned me to play pit percussion during the halftime show. Now, pit percussion was fun. It involved some really cool auxiliary percussion instruments like the bongos, timpani, and timbales and cowbell. So it was fun. But it involved no marching, and I was just so devastated. However, nothing was going to stop me from playing snare drum with the marching band in the halftime show. So my family and I worked with an engineer to design a snare drum harness that would be lighter and easier for me to carry. And so, after continuous work, we made a snare drum apparatus that weighs only about 6 pounds. I'm just going to give you some more information about progeria. It affects only about 350 kids today worldwide, so it's pretty rare. And effects of progeria include tight skin, lack of weight gain, stunted growth, and heart disease. Last year, my mom and her team of scientists published the first successful progeria treatment study. And because of this, I was interviewed on NPR. And John Hamilton asked me the question, what is the most important thing that people should know about you? And my answer was simply that I have a very happy life. So even though there are many obstacles in my life, with a lot of them being created by progeria, I don't want people to feel bad for me. I don't think about these obstacles all the time, and I'm able to overcome most of them anyway. So I'm here today to share with you my philosophy for a happy life. So for me, there are 3 aspects to this philosophy. So this is a quote from the famous Ferris Bueller. The first aspect to my philosophy is that I'm okay with what I ultimately can't do because there's so much that I can do. Now, people sometimes ask me questions like, isn't it hard living with progeria? Or what daily challenges of progeria do you face? And I'd like to say that even though I have progeria, most of my time is spent thinking about things that have nothing to do with progeria at all. Now, this doesn't mean that I ignore the negative aspects of these obstacles. When I can't do something like run a long distance or go on an intense roller coaster, I know what I'm missing out on. But instead, I choose to focus on the activities that I can do through things that I'm passionate about, like scouting or music or comic books or any of my favorite Boston sports teams. Yeah. So, however, sometimes I need to find a different way to do something by making adjustments, and I want to put those things in the can-do category, kind of like you saw with the drum earlier. So here's a clip with me playing Spider-Man with the Foxborough High School marching band at halftime a couple years ago. Thank you. All right. So that was pretty cool. And so I was able to accomplish my dream of playing snare drum with the marching band, as I believe I can do for all of my dreams. So hopefully you can accomplish your dreams as well with this outlook. The next aspect to my philosophy is that I surround myself with people that I want to be with, people of high quality. I'm extremely lucky to have an amazing family who have always supported me throughout my entire life. And I'm also really fortunate to have a really close group of friends at school. Now, we're kind of goofy. A lot of us are band geeks, but we really enjoy each other's company, and we help each other out when we need to. We see each other for who we are on the inside. So this is us goofing off a little bit. And so we're juniors in high school now, and we can now mentor younger band members, as a single collective unit. What I love about being in a group like the band is that the music that we make together is true, it's genuine, and it supersedes progeria. So I don't have to worry about that when I'm feeling so good about making music. But even having made a documentary, going on TV a couple times, I feel like I'm at my highest point when I'm with the people that surround me every day. They provide the real positive influences in my life, as I hope that I can provide a positive influence in theirs as well. Thank you. So the bottom line here, because when I do, forward-thinking state of mind, know that there's a bright future ahead and may get me through some difficult times that I may be having. Now, this mentality includes staying in a forward-thinking state of mind. Put it in so that I can acknowledge it and do what I need to do to move past it. When I was younger, I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to be an inventor who would catapult the world into a better future. Maybe this came from my love of Legos.
Holy crap, I'm screwing everything up here. Hold on just a second, y'all. Trying to turn the volume up and I messed it all up.
Engineer. I wanted to be an inventor who would catapult the world into a better future. Maybe it doesn't have to be big. It could be a significant positive impact. So, the third aspect to the philosophy is keep moving forward. Here's a quote by a man you may know named Walt Disney, and it's one of my favorite quotes. I always try to have something to look forward to, something to strive for to make my life richer. It doesn't have to be big. It could be anything from looking forward to the next comic book to come out, or going on a large family vacation, or hanging out with my friends, to going to the next high school football game. However, all of these things keep me focused and know that there's a bright future ahead and may get me through some difficult times that I may be having. Now, this mentality includes staying in a forward-thinking state of mind. I try hard not to waste energy feeling badly for myself, because when I do, I get stuck in a paradox where there's no room for any happiness or any other emotion. Now, it's not that I ignore when I'm feeling badly. I kind of accept it. I let it in so that I can acknowledge it and do what I need to do to move past it. When I was younger, I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to be an inventor who would catapult the world into a better future. Maybe this came from my love of Legos and the freedom of expression that I felt when I was building with them. And these was also derived from my family and my mentors, who always make me feel whole and good about myself. Now today, my ambitions have changed a little bit. I'd like to go into the field of biology, maybe cell biology or genetics or biochemistry or really anything. And this is a friend of mine who I look up to, Francis Collins, the director of the NIH. And this is us at TEDMed last year, chatting away. I feel that no matter what I choose to become, I believe that I can change the world. And as I'm striving to change the world, I will be happy. About 4 years ago, HBO began to film a documentary about my family and me called Life According to Sam. Now, it was a pretty great experience, but it was also 4 years ago. And like anyone, my views on many things have changed and hopefully matured, like my potential career choice. However, some things have stayed the same throughout that time, like my mentality and philosophy towards life. So I would like to show you a clip of my younger self from the film that I feel embodies that philosophy. I know more about it genetically. So it's less of an embodiment now. It used to be like this thing that prevents me from doing all this stuff that causes other kids to die, that causes everybody to be stressed, and now it's, a protein that is abnormal that weakens the structure of cells. So, and it takes a burden off of me because now I don't have to think about progeria as an entity. Okay, pretty good, huh? Yep. Thank you. So, as you can see, I've been thinking this way for many years, but I'd never really had to apply all of these aspects of my philosophy to the test at one time until last January. I was pretty sick. I had a chest cold and I was in the hospital for a few days. I was secluded from all of the aspects of my life that I felt made me me. That kind of gave me my identity. But knowing that I was going to get better and looking forward to a time that I would feel good again helped me to keep moving forward. And sometimes I had to be brave, and it wasn't always easy. Sometimes I faltered, I had bad days, but I realized that being brave isn't supposed to be easy. And for me, I feel it's the key way to keep moving forward. So, all in all, I don't waste energy feeling bad for myself. I surround myself with people that I want to be with, and I keep moving forward. So, with this philosophy, I hope that all of you, regardless of your obstacles, can have a very happy life as well. Oh, wait, hang on a sec. One more piece of advice. Never miss a party if you can help it. My school's homecoming dance is tomorrow night, and I will be there. Thank you very much.
All right. I love Sam's message. That was awesome. And he did a lot of things that Patrick would advise. So, what you are going to do now is you're going to spend the next 10 minutes going to D2L and going to the importance and use of philosophy discussion board post. And you will only answer the question that's on the screen. How does Sam Burns follow Patrick Gentempo's advice? So, thinking about the word, phrase, and sentence that you put on the Jamboard and what you just heard from Sam, what did he do that that Patrick encouraged us to do as we follow our own philosophy? I'm gonna stop share because I've got to edit the screen there a little bit. Let me see if I can find it again. Where the heck is it? I'm messing up today. Okay, so 10 minutes to do that. I'll find the screen while you go to D2L for that. Any questions before I? Okay, sounds good then. All right, so let's get going so that we can take this quiz together. Did y'all hear me? We're taking the quiz together. So
The quiz?
Yes, so there's a quiz in module 1 and we're gonna take it together. So if everybody could go on D2L, know also that your questions are not going to be in the same order that my questions are in. So I'm gonna go to the D2L site and I'm gonna be taking the quiz, but your questions aren't gonna be in this order. So you're gonna have to listen really carefully as I go through my rationale and my understanding of the questions, because you might have to answer your questions further down the line. And I'm not gonna do a lot of repeating, y'all. I'm giving y'all the answers, so you gotta pay attention when you get them, okay? Everybody cool with that? Show me some kind of smiley face, thumbs up, something.
Yes, I hear you.
Miss.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, let me pull up the D2L site so that I can go into the quiz. And I'll kind of explain to you why I'm doing it that way too, as I pull it up. I don't like the Wikipedia readings in this chapter, in this module. They are kind of stupid. So rather than have you read something that I really don't think has a lot of value, I'd rather for me to kind of talk it through for you so that you have the information without having to go through all the nonsense of that reading. I'm gonna do a preview because I can't actually take the test. Right. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about worldview. And I'm going to even refer to my notes because, like I said, some of this just isn't even as clear to me, if I'm being honest. So worldview is a descriptive model of the world, and it comprises 6 elements. It seeks to explain the world. It seeks to kind of think about the future of the world as it exists. So like, where are we headed? It also seeks to answer some ethical questions like, what should we do? So kind of like that ethics that Patrick Gentempo talked about is also part of our worldview. So worldview is the lens in which we see the world. And so it is through the way that we explain the world, the way that we think about the future of the world, the way that we identify right and wrong in the world. It's about our theory of action, how we practice what we think about the world, our knowledge, and also the building blocks of the world. And what the world view wants to do is, by looking at the way in which we view the world, we can advance science, we can become closer connected as humans, and we can use reason as well as emotions to explain our reality. So the answer to the question that's up on my screen is all of the above. So the worldview is increasingly important because it helps to advance our science. It helps to make us culturally connected, and the failure to reason alone to explain reality is part of the worldview. So that's my answer for that one. Question number 2, metaphysics. And remember, that's one of the ones that Patrick talked about too. Metaphysics is one of those 3 elements of psychology, and it deals primarily with, and I don't know if you remember him saying this, but remember, it's like, who am I and what am I? So it's reality and existence. So metaphysics is the area of psychology that deals primarily with our reality and our existence. Philosophy is a subject of primary concern to college professors and theologians. And while that may seem to be true, it is absolutely false. We use it in science, we use it, as you saw in the videos, we use it as individuals to help us construct and make choices in our own lives. Philosophy is the study and examination of problems and matters of knowledge, existence, and reasoning. It's all of those things. So the correct answer for this one is all of the answers are correct. So we're looking at knowledge, we're looking at our existence, we're looking at reasoning. Remember back to that Patrick Gatempo video. Whether human beings are inherently good or evil would be a question of what type of philosophy, and that's ethics. Remember, when we're determining our conduct, when we're asking ourselves, what should we do? That is an ethical consideration of philosophy.
Can you go back up to 4? I'm sorry, question 4.
It's all of them. When we're thinking about philosophy.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep. And so then ethics is right and wrong. And then for question 6, educational philosophy falls under what larger category of philosophy? This answer is not correct. I took this quiz I took it 4 times, and this was the last answer I got. I don't know why this answer, it says political philosophy, just put that, but know that the real answer should, instead of political philosophy, it should really be metaphysics and logic. But I'm not going to argue, we just get into the right answer. So the answer, not the right answer, but the answer that's going to make it marked correct on our quiz. This question, Lee Apostol argued that worldviews, and remember, worldviews are the way in which we view the world, it's the lens by which we look at the world, are descriptive models of the world that individuals themselves construct. And that's true. So prior to Lee Apostol, there were people who believed that our worldview was constructed by our social context, and that we as a collective society developed our worldview together. But Lee Apostol said, no, we construct our worldview on our own. It is our own individual beliefs and ideas that construct how. The next one is a person's worldview can stem from all of the above. It can stem from knowledge, it can stem from our emotions, it can stem from our culture. And that makes sense. So thinking about how you view something, you're using all of those things in order to help you determine what's right and what you think about it. You're using your knowledge, you're using your emotions, you're using your culture. Question number 9. One area of philosophy that is directly connected to education, including teaching and learning, is epistemology. And you'll remember in that video too, and I keep referring back to that Patrick Gatempo video because it was really good, that he told us that it's metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics. And the epistemology is we ask, how do we know this? So knowing is knowledge, is teaching and learning. And the last one, praxeology, is an element of worldview that, how do we get things done? Yes. Embraces a particular theory of how to get things done. So this worldview is really goal oriented. It is like, okay, what's the action and how do I get there? So does anybody need me to go over any ones again?
Yes, the one that's I missed well, mine is number 3.
Okay, what's the question?
Hold on, let me look for it. It says, is in an area of philosophy that deals with primarily with education, religion.
Okay. Yep. Wait. And it is reality and existence.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay, so you should submit your quiz and you should get back that you have done extremely well on that quiz. So again, the goal was to not have you read that Wikipedia article that was really, I felt, not beneficial, but to really think about and talk through and hear me talk through the rationale for each one of those questions. So worldview is how we view the world. It's based in our knowledge, our culture, our emotions. Philosophy is three prongs. We look at it in terms of our existence and our reality, our knowledge, and then our code of ethics, which is what's right and what's wrong. And that's basically what you need to know and understand. Any questions about that? Okay. Here is what's up for next week. I'm going to make this big so we can all see this. All right. So for Monday, so these assignments are not due on Sunday. They're due on Monday. This course happens kind of late in the week, and I wanted to give you another day to get those assignments done. So Monday, you have a family interview, and in a minute, I'm going to take you to that in D2L so that you can see what that looks like, and that's due on Monday. You should have done the discussion post, the only discussion post that's in class, the only discussion post that's due, you should have done in class. We're done with that. I will be adding your word, sentence, phrase grades to D2L as well. We've done the quiz together, so that's done. Preparation for next week, make sure just go through the module and check out what's there. Be prepared also to talk about your family interview and some of the answers that you got. Anyone have any questions about what you see on the screen right now? So a lot of it we did. Really, the only thing that you have to do is the family interview. Okay, let me go to the family interview. Let me go to D2L really quickly. So I can, while I'm pulling that up, let me just give you the background for it. The family interview is just, it's asking you to interview the oldest person you know, the oldest relative that you have or that you can get in contact with, and talk to them about their own educational experience, what education was for them, how they view it, and get some of their insights. So I got the assignment here. Let me share the screen. All right. So you're going to talk to your parents, your grandparents, or the oldest person that you know about their kindergarten through 12th grade experience. I know that some of you are not originally from, you might not have been born here in the United States, and that's great because it's going to give us a great distinction between the educational experience here in the United States versus somewhere else. So you'll ask them these questions and you'll take notes as they answer the questions, or you can record the conversation with their permission. If you record it, then you'll just upload the recording. It could be a voice recording, it could be a video recording, you'll just add it to that Dropbox. If you're just gonna write out, then just write out their answers and then type them up and add them to the module. So tell me about your thoughts about education will be your first question. Where were you educated will be your next question. How much education did you receive? How is your education different from you're talking, when I say my education, you're talking about yourself. You'll ask them what were their educational goals. Did they want to go to college? Was it just good enough that they stopped after high school? Or in the instance of some people that might not have been born here, maybe high school education was not even available. I know if I were to ask my grandmother didn't have a high school education. What did you learn in school? What were they teaching you? And how were you taught? Were you taught in a schoolhouse where all the grade levels were in one classroom? Did you learn in a classroom space where everyone was in rows? I mean, asking them to think about the ways in which their teacher delivered learning to them, and how were they disciplined? So if I talked to my parents would tell me that they got smacked upside their heads in school and that was okay. My parents are from the South too, so that's a little different. But so their teachers were allowed to discipline them physically, and compared to now where that would get you in a whole heap of trouble to do that right now. And then how is education the same from your experience, and how is education different from your experience? And do you think students are learning more or less today than they were when you were a student? So you'll type up your summary of the responses or add your recording or audio to the Dropbox, and then you'll write a one paragraph, reflection based on what you think of what you heard. Please include the name and age of the person that you interviewed when you're doing this. Any questions about that?
What if we don't have grandparents? So can I interview our parents?
The oldest people you know that you have.
It's my dad.
Don't tell him I said that and that you're interviewing him, though. He might get angry about that. Any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna stay on for 10 minutes, these last 10 minutes. So if anybody wants to stick around and ask me questions, I'll be here. But remember too that you can text me, you can email me if you have any questions, and have a great weekend, you all.
Thank you, you too.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes.
All right, thank you. See you later.
For the Sam Bernard's discussion board, so I can write about like how he said like his life is happy because he's trying to work hard, but he's not think about disease, but his disease, but he's trying to work hard to be a normal person. So
Yeah.
I can talk about this.
You can talk about.
I'm confused.
So think about some things that I would go back and show to the Jamboard. Let's see if I have it up. No, that's an important one. I would go back to the Jamboard and think about what people said. So he talked about you have the ability to choose, right?
Yeah.
Sam is choosing to be happy, even though some situation might choose otherwise.
Yeah.
So that's how he's following Patrick's advice. He's
like he's choosing what he want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I will be finished by today, but sometimes I confuse because English is my second language, so sometimes I get confused.
Understood.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
So I had a quick question. So the family interview, it just has to be one paragraph?
Well, your interview, your reflection will be one paragraph. Your interview will be like all of those questions. And remember, you can record that, you can and upload it. But so you'll ask those questions, and if you're writing it out, you're gonna have to, however long it takes to write that out. But then you'll reflect on what they said.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Isaiah?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Don't work too hard.
I won't.
I had a question. Can you hear me? Okay. For the discussion for part 1 about what Patrick, the tech talk, for that, what do we put it specifically? Because this is what waste, I can't say the P word, be useful in our lives. And then it says complete the word, phrase, sentence, assignment.
Yeah, so we did that in class. So that's what we did on that Jamboard. So you have to put that in there.
Okay, wait, I couldn't hear the last part. Sorry.
So you don't have to put that in there. The only thing that you're adding to the discussion board is this question that you see on the screen now. How did Sam follow Patrick and Tempo's advice.
Okay. And for that, I actually put, because I don't know if you remember, but in the first video we watched, he talks about how there's two different types of people when it comes to motivation. I put that he's the second one because even though he had a disease, he kept on going.
That's perfect. That's perfect, Gabriella. That's exactly what I was looking for.
Okay. And I don't know if you knew, but the sad thing about that is that after his interview with this, 1 month later, he passed away.
Yeah.
That's sad.
It is. And I when I watch the video, I often wonder if he was feeling that. Because there, like, sometimes I felt like he got emotional when he was talking. Did you see that?
Yeah, he did. I noticed.
I noticed that he was like getting emotional, and I was wondering, as I was watching, I was like, I wonder if he knew how sick he was, and he was just not expressing that to us because he was making a choice to be happy, and those memories were making him sad, feel sad. I don't know. It's really interesting to think about that.
Yeah, because when he was doing his talk, sometimes he would like stutter, and you can tell in his voice that he wanted to cry.
Yes, that's what I was hearing too.
Yeah, but thank you for answering my questions.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Have a good weekend.
You too.
I just have a question. So for the interviewing someone, can we just write it? Like, can we just put their name and then what they said for each question, under each question?
Absolutely do that, but then don't forget that other part of it is to write a paragraph reflecting on it.
Okay. Okay. If I have any questions, I email you or text you.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Have a nice weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.